Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to Counselor's Couch 101. I am Jim Stump, and thank you for your comments and your emails. Please keep them coming. They used to say, keep those cards and letters coming, right? Email address is counselorscouch101 at mail.com. Mail.com. Here's an item that's can be fun and oftentimes can be funny, but there's also a dark side to it. There can be a dark side to it as well. It's the idea when a couple or partners find themselves in a pattern of arguing and they're trying to get some way to make that stop. And so they agree that they're going to give some sort of a timeout signal. Oftentimes they're just going to simply go like that. So when the other person is getting amped up and charged up and like that, the partner will go, timeout. And the idea is that the person who is going over the line is supposed to calm down, is supposed to trust the person who's telling you to take a timeout, that they are not manipulating you or anything else. They are sincerely caring about you and about the relationship and what's going on in that moment. So they say, okay, time out. Let's just calm down here a minute. Let's calm down and we'll come back to the conversation. Well, oftentimes what happens with that is the person who is being told to take a time out usually says, no, I'm not amped up. Not now, not yet. I'm not angry yet. And then sometimes it can be outrageously funny when they stop and they look back on it and see how ridiculous the entire situation was. And what's really going on there is not that someone has to communicate, it's that they have an emotional charge that's built up inside them and they need to release that charge. That's what it's all about. Oftentimes, through time and experience, the partner will just say, go ahead, rant, get it out. And when it's all out, then we'll calm down, then we'll talk at that point. But in order to do that, the timid one, the one who's letting the other one scream and holler, has to be okay with it. They don't have to feel like they're being diminished or attacked or being put down in some way. They have to be okay with it. And when you understand that your partner is not really talking against you, but they're just talking to get the emotional charge out, it's okay. It can be done. I know oftentimes in the past, I can watch someone going on and on and on about something that really wasn't important, but they seem really charged up about it. And when they finally do wind down and start to calm down, I quietly say something like, do you feel better now? Because that's what it was. It had nothing to do with what they were saying. It had to do with having to release that emotional charge, right? And like I say, sometimes a couple can look back on an event and they will just see the humor in it, see how ridiculous it was, and they'll be laughing hysterically. That's sort of a good sign because I'm hoping that that sort of a recapitulation will result in some better behavior in the future. People will start to recognize what their pattern is and they'll see it coming. And when the partner says, hey, time out, they recognize that they are starting to amp up and they say, okay, they take a breath, they take a few steps, they calm down, come back and talk. But there's a dark side to this thing too. It's when someone is so wound up, has been triggered so for something really deep inside that they can't stop and they become vicious and they really go at someone. At that point, the person who's the quiet one, the timid one of the partnership, can really feel hurt and angered and wounded by that. You can destroy relationships by hitting too hard in too many vulnerable places, not because any of it is important, but because you have an emotional charge that you need to release. That's the dark side. Once again, my thought is just let them rant. Don't take it personally because it's not about you. Most of the time, they won't even remember what the issue was that set them off. They just know that they were set off. It also denotes when somebody gets amped up like that and is letting out a whole lot of anxiety and so forth. It suggests that there's a deep wound somewhere inside. You're not going to heal that wound by telling them to take a time out, right? What's going to heal that wound is for someone to understand them and recognize that they need to get these things out. Whether or not the partner is the right person to do it is another question, because oftentimes, like I say, it can be very hurtful. It can destroy a relationship. So the idea is to learn how to take a time out in a way that is beneficial to both of you. And the person who usually gets angry easier is the one who's going to have the most trouble with that, right? But regarding timeout, people do all sorts of things. They say Disneyland, they say Dodgers, they say Malibu. They come up with a word. rosebud, whatever they're going to say, and the other person simply isn't ready to hear it. The person wants to amp up because the person needs to discharge that anxiety, and that's what it's all about. And like I say, sometimes this can be really, really funny in that with the partners who are trying to work something out. Other times it can be devastating because someone is completely destroyed over an item that simply had no value in the relationship at all. It was just something that had set the angry partner off and caused them to start venting. So the funny part, like I say, is when someone starts saying, calm down now, time out, Malibu, Rosebud, and the partner keeps saying, no, I'm not upset yet. I'm nowhere near upset. So you can't say that now. It's not right. It's not appropriate, right? And at that point, we have to stop and think, how do we do this thing better? We might discover how to do this thing better by looking at what has been triggered, right? And very oftentimes that can't be solved or ameliorated by the partners themselves. Maybe they need someone else to take an outsider's view and bring up, help someone discover the issues that are triggering them and causing them into that behavior. And that could mean you want to sit down with a counselor, but counseling can come in all sorts of forms. I've said this many times. You can talk to a best friend, and sometimes that'll let you explore the issue for yourself and find your own answer. People talk to other people at their churches. They talk to co-workers. They talk to people they spend a lot of time traveling with. Any of these things can work, but if it doesn't find the solution for you and you find yourself being triggered and amped up over little things and you can't seem to stop, then you may want to talk to someone else who might have more insight and more experience in helping you identify the issues that are triggering you. But in the meantime, the idea of taking a time out can work very well if both partners agree to it, and if the partner who is requesting the time out is not abusing the privilege, right? Oftentimes, folks can manipulate or attempt to manipulate the other person by saying time out, time out, time out. And the person said, I haven't even said anything yet, and already you're telling me to shut up, you know? So we have to make sure that people are well behaved on both sides of that agreement, right? So if you want to have someone take a time out, start talking about why they need the time out and talk about when you actually will be allowed to use the technique and what that is going to entail. That's some of the ideas behind that. Take a time out can be effective unless it's used as a weapon against someone. Don't misuse it. Thanks for stopping by. I look forward to talking to you next time.